Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado, and this is my buddy Puccini, who helps me in the craft room and keeps me company and chews on paper and does other things that he probably shouldn't. And today I have for you the first in my Christmas cards for 2025. Let me adjust this camera just a little bit there. And it's kind of a fun one. It's using the Holly Jolly suite, and that's a hybrid embossing folder. And it is holly leaves and a very interesting die set, and it has stamps and it has all kinds of crazy things. And I really am happy with the card that I came up with. I've already got 2 more in design and ready to go that are using unusual materials. So let's just get started. Here is my card, and it says Merry Christmas. It's really pretty simple, and it's got this beautiful hybrid embossing folder. And on the inside, it says, "May the spirit of the season bring you hope, happiness, and love." And it's just got more of this holly leaf on it. And that is it. So what we need to make this card is we need, I used a white base. Okay, and my card opens this way. Now, this is the hybrid embossing folder, and mine's gotten itself a little warped with quite a bit of use and somebody trying to run it through with a not the right folder or not the right sandwich. But it works just fine. And the way you do this is to put this embossing folder in place inside, or this die inside the embossing folder in such a way that it clicks into place. And this is the raised detail, and this die fits right in there so that now it won't move. It's absolutely securely around those edges. And then you put your piece of paper down here like this, and you run it through. And what I did find was it's best to run this through on a 1/4 sheet of paper. So 5.5 by 4 1/4, because otherwise these connecting things don't always work and you end up cutting off like this little leaf at the bottom. And if you run it through on a larger piece of paper, then you can decide where to trim it to get it the size that you want it. And that is the one piece of advice I'd give you. So when you run this through, and I've already run mine through to save a little bit of time, let me move that out of the way. I got this piece of white, which is a 1/2 sheet, and then I cut out this one for the green, because what I wanted was this very large holly leaf here, and sometimes they just break off pretty easily, and other times you need to use your snips to release them. But I wanted 2. I wanted that one and, oh, maybe this one, because it's a pretty good sized, and I think on this one I'm going to have to use my snips here. So I'm going to just cut those apart. I need 2 of them to make my card. And we made this in a card class, and then I used it for a swap. And so there's the 2 green ones that I need. And then I cut, so you need a base 11 by 4 1/4, and scored and folded at 5.5, and then I have 2 pieces of, this is Mossy Meadow, and this Mossy Meadow is cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 because I wanted the ever so tiniest border to show around the edge of this just to pull those greens in. Then these are strips that are, I think they're 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, 1/4 of an inch by 5 1/4 to cover across here. And I have 2 of those, one for the inside, one for the outside. And then we have this for the sentiment, and this is 2 1/4 by 1 3/8 for the white for your message if you use this one, and the green behind it is 2 3/8 by 1 1/2. Okay, and that gives you what you need to make your sentiment for the card. All right, so the first order of business is to put one of my pieces of green on the inside and the outside of the card base. And I've started using this this glue, this My Sweet Petunia, this gun, and boy do I like it. So what I really like about this gun is that it produces a very thin line of whatever kind of glue you put in it. Of course, it comes filled with 1 bottle of glue, and then it comes with an empty bottle. And I really, really like it. Then this is the holder for it, and it just sits in there until you're ready to go. And the needle sits on a little rubber piece here on the bottom, so the glue doesn't leak out. And I really enjoy using it. I have a lot of arthritis in my hands, and so I was afraid it was going to be too big and too hard to use, but I'm delightfully surprised at how easy it is to use and how much I like it. So I'm going to go ahead, oops. Nice to have the opportunity to wiggle things more into place. And I'm going to set this up so that there's just the slightest border around the end on this piece, and push that into place. And then I'm going to put one of those on the inside of the card. And I'm finding this is actually quite a bit easier on my hands, and it doesn't get too much glue in place, and it's wonderful. I'll show you when we put on the pieces how easy it is to use when you've got to put little bits of glue here and there. So I'm putting this in place and moving it around so that it has the slightest border all the way around. And then there's one more piece. There's another piece of white that is 4 by 5 1/4 that's going to go here. And actually we can go ahead and put that one into place as well. So again, there's just the smallest little green border around the outside of this card, and I really in this case like that. Like sometimes I like a big fat border, but on this one I just wanted the hint. Okay, then this piece is ready to go in across here on the bottom, and again this gun works darn well to just drop some dots of glue down the page and then pick this up and put it in place across the bottom of my card and just hold it in place until the glue has a chance to get its grip. The biggest challenge with that is getting that line on there straight, and you can use a T-ruler to do that. That works beautifully, and right now I don't have one in front of me. Okay, so back to the front of our card. Now, what we want is this one to come out 4 by 5 1/4, and you can see it's a full quarter page, so we're going to have to trim this down. But if you trim it and you cut it on a smaller piece, like this piece ends up popping out. So doing that gives us the opportunity to choose where we're going to cut this. And so I'm going to choose, let's see, I end up putting this on my card this way so that I've got a big 4-petal item up here, and I've got this 3-piece item right down here. And that's going to allow me to put my other little green strip so that I can tuck it along here and underneath this petal, so that gives me enough room when I do that for my sentiment to go into place. And I want my sentiment to be on here so that it has quite a bit of a white margin all the way around it. Okay, so now then the trick is not to cut off pieces that I don't want to disappear and still get this to come out 4 by 5 1/4. Now this area down here is pretty empty, so I can safely cut a little bit from this end. So I'm going to trim off probably 1/4 of an inch along this end. And that is going to need me to trim down only by a very small amount to get to 4 inches. In fact, I think I can take all of that off of that end. So that's at 4 inches. And I'm going to slice that other little piece off of there. And so now we're at 4 inches, and I want to go to 5 1/4, but I don't want to cut this leaf off. You can, and you can just glue it back in, but if I don't have to, I'd rather not. So 5 by 4 1/4 means that I'm going to take about 1/4 inch off of this side, and that takes off little bits and pieces all along there. Okay, all right. Next, I need to put some glue on this piece so that it can go into place on my card. And that's where this gun I was very impressed with, because I can just dot my glue all along these places where I want the pieces to be held down and not impede those that can be raised. And so I can just choose to put my glue right where I want it. And I'm fairly impressed with the performance on this. And this is hard to see because of all of the cuts. But as you do it and you kind of go slow, you can see where the glue goes, and you can go back and put more glue in a spot that you might have missed pretty darn easily. And get in between the holly petals and get that put down. And that looks pretty good to me. There's some in all of the corners. And then I know that I want this big 4 petal on the top So we're just going to set this in here so that it's got a little bit of a margin all the way around, and I can just push that into place and still have a little wiggle time. Oh, there's my buddy. Come back to visit. Let me get him out of here. Encourage him into his box. Okay, now let's see if I've missed my window here. No, I'm just going to move that up just a hair. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to push that into place. Usually he doesn't want to visit me when I'm in the middle of filming, but here he is. That's all right. We need this to take a second to glue, and then I can encourage him to go do something else. Huh? Yeah, you need to go find something else to do. And you can either get in your box or you can go away. Okay. All right. So I think that's pretty good. Now, what I need to do, and I need a pick tool. Hold on. Now, this is the only pick tool I can find. But these pieces I want raised here. If you'll notice on my card here, this one is raised and this one is raised. And so that they won't just smash down and get back into place like these have done here, I'm putting a little bit of a dimensional underneath those petals here, here, and here, and putting this up on a dimensional, and that allows us to have a little bit of 3D movement there. So I'm going to go through and pick these up, because those are the ones I'm going to want to have access to underneath, and doing some of that. Now I have some mini dimensionals, and this one comes up in a nice big piece, so I can tuck that dimensional way in the back and take off that release paper, and that one will stick both of those petals up. Then one underneath here, and remove that release paper. There we go. One underneath here, again kind of way in the back, and then on this one I only need two. I'm going to put one underneath this petal, and then one more under this petal, and then my piece that I lay across here, my Mossy Meadow strip, is going to go underneath this one, and it will hold that petal up a little bit. So I'm ready to glue this piece of green in there, and again just some dots or a small strip along this thing, and I want that fairly high on the card, but underneath this petal, like right about there. And that, I think, still gives me enough room for this sentiment to sit in here and be really separate from that. In fact, that whole thing can go up just a little bit more than that. There we go. Right in there like that. Now I'm going to put some dimensionals and set that into place right along here. Isn't that pretty? Very fun. Then I'm going to take this big 4-petal guy, and I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of it. Okay, now you see I've already got one of these on there, And this is, and I'll put the name of them. I can't remember right off the top of my head what they're called. And what I've done is I used all of the cherry cobbler ones, and I used cherry cobbler ink on this so it would kind of match. And then I colored some more of these with my blend. And so I'm going to take one of these 3 combos and put that on that holly leaf, and then some of these ones that I colored, one up here, one right in here, and one right down in here. And I think that finishes the look pretty well for the outside of the card. Now for the inside of the card, we have our strip in here, and I've got my other green holly leaf, and I'm just going to put some glue on it. And put that into place right in here. Hold that in place. So I'll just put 3 on here of these single ones. It all works out. This came with a couple of sheets of the cherry cobbler ones, and then a couple of sheets of this iridescent, but they color beautifully, so you can have as many of the red ones as you like. There we go with that. Now the final thing is the stamp, and then I used my cherry cobbler ink, and I have my sentiment here, and I'm just going to slide it right over here on this side. And I thought that was such a nice little sentiment. May the spirit of the season bring you hope, happiness, and love. I just think that's very apropos. And this was the Merry Christmas, and it's 2 stamps, and I just put one above the other and stamped it on here, both in cherry cobbler. Now you could choose to do red if you still have some of those old red rhinestones, or you have some red rhinestones in your stash, and instead of doing it in the cherry cobbler, you can do it in the red. But for mine, I kind of like the cherry cobbler look. And there we go. So that is my card, first Christmas card of the 2025 season. And like I said, I've already got a couple of other ones designed and ready to rock and roll using some real different kinds of materials. We will make some of our own DSP. I'm not crazy about the Stampin' Up paper this year for the holiday season. There's a couple that have the traditional, but I'm a real traditional person as far as colors for Christmas go. I like the reds and the greens and golds and some of that kind of stuff. So I'll be making a lot of my own DSP this year. And let's see, what can I tell you? Still tons of things on my website, retired Stampin' Up, and no shipping at this point still. And when I do put shipping on there, it'll be pretty minimal. It'll be flat rates, low flat rates. So I've got lots of material up, and I hope you give this one a shot. It's kind of fun to play with, and I think this would be fun to cut all of the holly leaves out in different colors and do something kind of different with it. We'll have to see what happens, but I've got a couple of ideas for some different ways to treat this, and one of them would be a mixed media. So we'll see what happens with it. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And so I'll be back soon with more cards, more tips and more projects. Bye.